Now that I have your attention, A+ special effects. You know, I think I actually preferred it the other way. Nice. Anyway, this is actually probably more appropriate considering today I want to talk to you about why you, as a violinist, or any other instrumentalist for that matter, should take up pumping iron. And not exercising, by the way, I mean actual weight training. I will say that I am very happy to see nowadays a lot more instrumentalists picking up weightlifting. Even 9 years ago, when I first started my undergrad at the Cleveland Institute of Music, there were very, very few people interested in physical fitness or even general health at all. I mean, except for a few emergency stretching sessions that happen near the end of every semester. Tendinitis! Oddly enough, I think the worst offenders in this regard were opera singers. I mean, other than keeping their nasal cavities clean. I mean, screw what's beneath the neck. I have alcohol to abuse. But I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to you, the violinist. This is why you should lift weights, and lift them seriously. Reason number 1, the mind-muscle connection and bodily awareness. If you've had any teacher worth his salt, you've definitely heard of the mind-muscle connection. You know how when you first start working on a brand new technique, or your teacher's having you do something else in a new and very unfamiliar way, that you suddenly feel like you have about as much control over that area of your body as an epileptic toddler. But then, as you struggle through the week, one day you are suddenly able to start to be able to move that muscle in the right way, and from then on the movement and practicing the movement and learning the movement becomes a lot easier. Now what you did during that time was create a mind-muscle connection. You see, while the body is perfectly capable of isolating the specific movements of specific muscles, it does not do this automatically in a state of pure nature. What the body does instead is merely just see a task and then do whatever is simplest and necessary to achieve it. A common example of this in violin playing would be getting someone to initiate the bow movement from the elbow joint. When you first move the bow across the string, all your brain sees is the task of move the bow across the string, and the easiest way to do that initially is with the shoulder, not the muscles around the elbow. So one of the first mind-muscle connections that any student makes is in learning the proper motion of the bow arm. Of course, you may say, what does this have to do with weightlifting? What this has to do with weightlifting is that more mind-muscle connection only breeds more mind-muscle connection. Now, if you seriously get into lifting weights, you will awaken the mind-muscle connection over your entire body. To do exercises effectively and properly, you will have to become very aware of your own muscular anatomy and be able to activate specific muscles while you're doing the exercise. The consequences of not learning a mind-muscle connection while you're in the gym can range anywhere from just having a subpar workout to, in the case of doing a complex heavy lift like a deadlift, injury. Now you might think that the muscles involved in lifting are not applicable to the muscles involved in playing. They actually are, but we'll get to that later. The truth is that having a greater bodily awareness will aid and affect everything that you do, including the tiny muscle movements involved in proper playing. Which brings me to the second reason why all sorts of violinists should take up weightlifting, which is muscle balance and self-therapy. If you've been playing an instrument for any significant length of time, you have inevitably come in contact with the idea of the playing injury. Now, most people tend to think that playing injuries are merely the result of muscles and tendons just being overworked. The truth is, however, that most playing injuries are caused by unnecessary tension from muscle imbalances. You see, all muscles come in what are called agonist and antagonist pairs. When a muscle, let's say your bicep, is activated, it shortens, thus bending the arm inward at the elbow. Now, the bicep cannot move the arm in the opposite direction by lengthening, so it needs an antagonist muscle on the other side. Now, if you overwork a particular muscle and ignore its antagonist, what you end up doing is creating an imbalance in that part of your body. The stronger muscle is putting constant tension on those joints and tendons to which it's attached, and this can even lead to pinched nerves. Now, it doesn't take a lot of strength to play the violin, but you do end up prioritizing certain muscles over others. And this is to say nothing of the muscles that are often activated in violin playing, which really shouldn't be. Another reason to work on that mind-muscle connection. Now, while stretching can and does alleviate a lot of the problems associated with muscular imbalances, one of the best ways to just avoid a lot of your playing injuries is by strengthening the other muscles. Now, not only does lifting work as a very effective form of self-therapy, but also will help you to greatly increase your understanding of human muscular anatomy. I mean, if you get into weightlifting, and I mean into weightlifting, you will very soon be able to name more muscles than a first-year med student. It's just part of the culture. Having this knowledge of your body plus the mind-muscle connection that we talked about earlier greatly increases your own ability to deal with possible playing injuries. Again, because weightlifting makes you so much more aware of your entire body that if you feel pain, it's much easier for you as the weightlifter to be able to trace back the source of that pain than your average ignoramus. To give an example for myself, I was recently having a lot of pain in my left arm where it felt like the nerve was being pinched right before my elbow. Because of my general awareness of my own body, I was able to figure out that the problem was not actually in my arm or in my elbow, but was actually caused by some knots that had accumulated in my traps, this big muscle back here. The trapezius, or the traps, as they're known in the biz, are one of those muscles that I mentioned previously that people really shouldn't use while playing, but do. In fact, it might be the #1 muscle people shouldn't use while playing. Now, I didn't think I'd been using it in my playing, but it still popped up its ugly head and produced a few knots on my left side. The tension from that muscle ended up causing a chain reaction, causing pinched nerves in my left arm. I was able to put in some work on balancing out that muscle and was able to start being able to play with very little pain in a few days. Without my experience in weightlifting, I would not have been able to pinpoint this problem without seeing a professional. But weightlifting gave me a bodily awareness and an understanding of anatomy and how all the muscles work together, so I was able to help myself. Now we come to the third and final reason why I think violinists should lift weights, and really it's just actually the main reason most people lift weights. Looking sexy. Let us not lose sight of the fact that we are performers. We are involved in almost as much a visual art form as an oral one. Now, while it's possible that a bit of girth can aid in the stage presence of a tiny minority of men, I mean, could anyone really imagine a skinny Luciano Pavarotti? Wait, is that real? He was a handsome bastard. That's it. That's it. Anyway, this is not the case for most people. For most of us, having a well-built physique only adds to the appeal of our performances and our stage presence, as a fit person is nice to look at and tends to have better posture. This is to say nothing of the confidence that one gains from being in really good shape. And honestly, having been on both sides of being in really, really good shape and not being, and kind of being in the middle right now. Don't let anyone tell you that being in really good shape doesn't boost your general confidence. You know, that thing that every layman anxiety therapist tells you that you just need. You know, the fact that you can't play in tune every time you get in front of others is really just a lack of confidence. The fact that your hand freezes up every time you perform is a lack of confidence. You know, the fact that you sweat through your clothes every time you are forced to interact with people you've never met is just because you have a lack of confidence. I mean, the reason your girlfriend left you is because of a lack of confidence. You know, the reason you have cancer... You get the point. Now, feeling better about yourself physically is not going to fix your performance anxiety. What it might do instead is just send you on a path towards self-discovery and self-improvement. Of course, the looks thing can go too far. I mean, look at Charlie Sheen. No one has ever heard this man play. I've heard dozens of women talk about this guy, and not one of them has ever mentioned how beautiful his tone is. I've been told he has a performing career. Considering how much women like to look at this guy, you'd think even if he played like crap, tons of them would just show up to his concerts so they could inhale his pheromones. No one has ever met any of these people. The man is basically Schrodinger's violinist at this point. He may or may not have a real performing career. Of course, chances are you're not Charlie Sheen, and people will actually come to hear you for the music you make. So, lift some heavy weights, build some muscle, burn some fat, Your body will be healthier, you'll be a lot more balanced in your muscles, and you'll be that much more visually appealing on stage. Anyway, I've been Tobias Murphy for Murphy Music Academy, and I would love to know your experiences with lifting weights as a musician.
So please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, and be sure to check us out at murphymusicacademy.org. Yeah.